We are live, and we are live on hashtag RTBTH, Real Talk Beyond the Headlines. This is a podcast where we talk about things, and co-hosted by myself and my boy Herschel, our official third member, Ehi, who's not with us today. What's good, Herschel?
Yo, feels good to be back. New year, new us. Same podcast, though. Happy New Year, everybody. 2023 out here.
Indeed. First podcast of the new year. I think we actually did one on January 1st, or it was published January 1st, 2022. So maybe this is a tradition for us. Anyway,
okay.
We have a guest. His name is Okechi. We actually did a book club before. So the Melanated Literati, which
salute.
We won't talk about on the podcast. You just have to know about it to know about it. But Okechi was part of the book club. Now he's on the podcast. What's good, Okechi?
I'm good. Happy New Year. Happy to be here, and thank you for inviting me on your podcast.
Indeed. So actually, Herschel, man, we should go ahead and do a little quick background. Just 2 sentences of what we do, just in case, the listeners are unfamiliar. I am working on my PhD in counseling psychology to one day be a licensed psychologist. I'm interested in technology and mental health. Herschel?
Yeah, man. Quick recap. I am an epidemiologist with CDC. I actively work as that, but I'm also attaining.
Also the Black Fauci?
AKA Black Fauci. That is what they call me. Shout out to Black Health, who roasted me up on New Year's Eve most recently after listening to one of our previous podcasts. Been living life, getting my shit together. Okechi, do you want to give us a quick background of what you do?
Yeah, for sure. I am Okechi. I currently have a finance blog called www.budgetunconscious.com. I also have degrees in finance, worked in finance consulting, and in technology. So,
okay, cool. Well, we have you on the podcast to get some of your finance expertise, your finance acumen. But thank you for sharing about your background, Okechi. And by the way, just for the listeners, we have show links. We have links to topics discussed on the podcast, most of the podcasts. It's becoming more regular nowadays, but we talk about so many different things. We reference so many different articles. So, we might breeze through something, but there's going to be a link. And I thought of that because I will link to your website, to your blog, Okechi, budgetunconscious.com. Loading up in my Google Chrome right now. I'll check it out later. Thanks for sharing.
Perfect.
Yeah, same.
So today's podcast is entitled hashtag Golden Age of Scam. And in order to introduce this topic, I am just going to go ahead and do a little monologue. This is not a pre-written monologue, but I have some notes.
Off the dome?
Off the dome a little bit, you know what I'm saying? So bear with me, listeners, but I'll explain to you what we're talking about here today. My thesis is that we are living in a thriving era of scam. Perhaps maybe the best ever, but at least in the most recent history, the past 20 to 30 years, this is the best time to scam, the golden age of scam. There's a decent amount written about fraud, scam in the modern era. Again, I'll find some articles and link to them. Just to sort of let you know about where this idea came from, the actor Ben McKenzie and the journalist Jacob Silverman are publishing a book in July 2023, and it's titled Easy Money, and the subtitle is Cryptocurrency, Casino Capitalism, and the Golden Age of Fraud. So, I kind of am doing a little play on their book with this podcast. The Golden Age of Fraud is the name of the book. The Golden Age of Scam is the name of the podcast. And as we like to do on this podcast, we like to talk definitions because we like to know what the F we're talking about, even though we don't do real time fact checking, but we try to be as accurate as possible when we can. On Merriam-Webster.com, scam means a fraudulent or deceptive act or operation. And personally, I kind of do think of the golden age of scam as a little bit different, even though it is still of the same ideas of the book that I mentioned, Easy Money by Ben McKenzie and Jacob Silverman. But it's not necessarily about the financial comeuppance when it comes to scam. Although a lot of scammers are making money, are, ripping people off for valuable things, for money, for cash. But it's the deceptive nature, the art of deception. We're living in the golden age of deception. The barrier for any individual person to run a pretty large and lucrative scam is getting increasingly lower and lower. It's so easy to just do some scam shit these days. So the big thing that we're probably going to talk about on this podcast, and while we have Okechi on the podcast, is cryptocurrency. 2021 was a huge year for crypto. 2022, 2/3 of crypto's value was erased. That's $2 trillion of value in cryptocurrency was erased in 2021. The most people who invested in crypto in 2021, or maybe I should say 2022, either way, post-pandemic, there's been a crypto boom and crypto bust. The majority of people who have been investing are in the red. A lot of people of color are down. People of color are down the most in the sort of the crypto, market that we've been experiencing these past couple of years. PPP loans. This has been a huge sort of, maybe not a huge topic, maybe it should be a huger topic, but a lot of people did scams with PPP loans at the early start of the pandemic. People buying Lambos with PPP loans, if I recall correctly. I think this is the perfect example and so timely for this Golden Age of Scam podcast. But the newly elected and soon to be, if not already, enrolled, I guess is the word I'll think of. I can't think of the proper word. Congressman from New York, George Santos, who fabricated his entire resume in order to get into Congress. And he's not stepping back from the position. He's not leaving the position. The Republicans are not going to kick him out. I think the only way a congressperson can be taken out of their position is by other congresspeople. They can't be impeached. So again, this is not necessarily about the financial comeuppance. He just scammed his whole way to the Congress position.
Hold up. Can you tell me more about what happened in terms of, like, what did he lie about on his resume? And is it not, are these items that are not verifiable? Particularly
they've been tried to be verified. He lied about his education. He lied that he went to Baruch College and I think NYU maybe for an MBA. He lied about, I think one of the huge ones, and I don't know if this is fully verified yet, but he was supposedly a gay man when he was running. But I think there's been some information about him having recently been divorced from a woman. He lied about, another huge one is that he lied about being Jewish, but he actually is not Jewish. And he claims that way in the past in his lineage, there were Jewish people. And his background is from Brazil, but there's no actual evidence that he said like his grandparents came from Europe during World War II and set up shop in Brazil, but there's no evidence. There's evidence showing that his grandparents actually were born in Brazil. So he's lied about a lot of things. He's lied about companies that he's owned, investments that he's made. He lied about working at Citibank and Morgan Stanley, I think. And he was elected. The Democrats weren't able to uncover this information, or they did, and it didn't get enough media traction. But he is now an elected member of Congress. So, more with the scam. Social media optics. Again, it's not necessarily about the financial comeuppance, but you have filters, you have AI enhancement, you have social media celebrities showing off impossible bodies because they've been enhanced with actual medical procedures, but also with social media and digital enhancements. Kim Kardashian is the absolute best perfect example of this. Everything about her social media is completely and utterly fake, as well as why am I blanking on her name? Which I'm happy to blank on. The Jenner one, Kylie Jenner. Yeah. Her shit's probably super fake as well. There are individual personas of people who are scamming and who are going big and then busting. Anna Delvey, the New York, I forget the term that was used to describe her, but
she was a German heiress, socialite. Yeah.
The New York socialite, the German heiress. She, was running some scams, and eventually got debunked. Elizabeth Holmes, one of the biggest medical scams we've seen in the past couple of years. Adam Newman still walked away with $1 billion from WeWork. Like, he ended up with like 1.2 billion from WeWork and had literally nothing to show for it except for all the cash he was blowing from SoftBank. Who else? Michael Avenatti. I mean, people thought, myself included, that he was going to take down Trump. Boy, I was so ready for Michael Avenatti to take Trump down. Now he's serving like 10, 11 years or something in prison. And my personal favorite, Hush Puppy, the Nigerian Instagram influencer. Yo, I never
We
followed.
always on top. You know what I'm saying?
You know, when it comes to scam shit, I mean, Nigerians will give you a run for your money. But I mean, Hush Puppy was an Instagram influencer, flashing the cars, the bags, Dubai, all this, planes, jets. This man has been arrested and convicted by the U.S. government for basically running a lot of, I believe, like credit card fraud and stuff. Random fun fact that I just found out today. He was found when he was arrested, when his residence was raided, with $40 million of cash, U.S. dollars cash.
What the
How? How?
That's actually insane. That 40 million in cash is literally out of this world. Like, that doesn't even make sense.
Yeah. It was in another currency, some sort of currency that's used in Arabic countries. I don't remember the name of it, but it was amount to 40 million in US dollars, which is crazy. Probably the biggest scam artist of all time, Donald Trump. Of course, his rise was complete scam. I mean, he scammed all of his followers, along with QAnon and January 6th. All of his followers are being, basically exploited. He's not actually doing anything for his base, his people who truly follow him. Maggie Haberman, the esteemed, extraordinary New York Times journalist, just published a book called Confidence Man about Donald Trump. And I haven't read it. Sounds like it's a very interesting book, but it basically details the rise and fall of Donald Trump through his con man persona. Last one, in terms of just the scam economy that we live in nowadays. This might be a little bit of a stretch, but AI technology is making it easier to come up with fake images and fake text. It's just so easy to deceive these days. There's just little authenticity. And this is sort of the ethos that brought this podcast to life. So I'll stop there. That's the end of my monologue. Thoughts?
Well, first I'll say it's interesting you mentioned Donald Trump's rise and fall. Obviously, he was the center of society for 4+ years, most recently. But, him being the confidence man that he was, his initial rise was via real estate. And we were obviously, off mic just discussing real estate and how it's filled with different pitfalls and scams, while at the same time being somewhat closely regulated. So it's interesting to me that you're mentioning that it's harder to or easier to scam today than it is in history. When I do think about, people have always been trying to get over on others. We did actually just do a podcast discussing some other fraudsters with our third co-host, Ehi, where we were just kind of talking about how Sam Bankman-Fried and the other lady who did the blood work, I forget her fucking name. But anyway, I'm
Elizabeth
not sure
Holmes.
Yes, Elizabeth Holmes, exactly. I was trying to decipher, damn, is it harder or easier or just different to scam in this technological age? You bring up something really interesting with the AI technologies creating fake images and things. I always question every time, when we do like a capture or something, when you're trying to log into a website, it's trying to determine if you're a fucking robot or not. And even when you click on stuff, it's not even necessarily that you're clicking. It's more oftentimes, and there are different ones. I'm not going to speak to all of them, but sometimes it'll be like a timer of your mouse. It's like, okay, if it were a machine kind of trying to log in very quickly, if they do like a 5 or 7 second delay or however long on average it takes a human being to look at 3 pictures and process which one is, has the crosswalks and shit in it. That's enough time for them to acknowledge, okay, this is not a robot versus, oh, he clicked exactly all 6 correct images. So I don't know that I would say it's all out easier, but in this internet age, we're literally probably about 20 years into the ubiquity of America, of internet in America. And on the internet, especially in the early days, in, the year 2000, you could be literally anything you want. And I think that has perpetuated to, today's society where, whether it's social media or financial frauds or you're running for senator and making up your whole fucking resume. Though at the same time, job market is hard. Who among us hasn't, embellished on our resumes? Not that I'm defending this dude at all, but I was trying to think like, damn, does this dude have, for a senator, are there like requirements or was he just doing these? And I assume he was just doing these things to make himself a better candidate. But like, even if they were to like validate or invalidate, he got the votes and he was able to dupe people into voting for him, which they're all doing all the time anyway. Whether they're quote unquote good or bad politicians or either on your side or against you, it's all confidence. It's all, trying to persuade and manipulate to gain an advantage over, for lack of a better word, an opponent, adversary, rival. I don't know. But I am interested to hear what Okechi has to say about this.
Yeah, for sure. So I do think it probably is the easiest era to scam. And that's, to your point, because of the proliferation of the internet. I can make something up and lie to tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, or millions of people with very little effort via the different advertising platforms we have, social media platforms we have, etc. And if I put that lie or that message out there repeatedly, I mean, you have some of these people, recent one, the Liver King, said he was natural. I'm not sure if you've heard of this individual, but said he was natural, which obviously is a lie. And then he came out and said it's a lie. But I'm sure more people have not heard, all of the people who've heard his message probably haven't heard, hey, I lied about this. Maybe 50% of the people have heard now. So it's so easy nowadays to make something up, get a result, whether it's winning an election, selling a product, or gaining funds for your own means. And then you can just say, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to, but you're a multimillionaire now. So the incentives are set up now in a way where it's like, okay, I can lie real quick, win an election. I can lie real quick, gain millions of dollars, and then I'll deal with the aftermath afterwards.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we can sort of talk about this in more detail later, but I do think social media is a big deal, is a huge part of it. Being able to reach a lot of people with probably not too much effort, or maybe you can even invest a couple 10,000, even a couple 100,000. I mean, the Liver King is a great example. Thank you for adding another example to the list of scam shit that I just talked about. But I mean, he had like a business. I'm sure he's invested a lot of money into his body, obviously, by buying steroids. But the social media aspect too. And I mean, Okechi, you make a great point about how like you can kind of reap the results without, and then you can eventually deal with the consequences, but maybe in a way that's not going to be that devastating. Like Kim Kardashian promoted the Ethereum Max, which, I mean, just that's the most scam shit ever because there's already Ethereum. What do you think Ethereum Max is? Is another Ethereum? We'll get into the crypto thing.
Didn't Logan Paul do some shit like that? Wasn't he doing like NFTs with that were Crypto Zoo that was supposed to hatch as eggs, and then he was quickly off that as, I mean, it was a scam. It was clearly some nonsense, but I could cut you off. Continue.
Yeah, but especially with crypto, like you can run the scam, cash out, and really not have to worry about consequences. I was gonna say Kim K, she got fined like 1.2 million for the Ethereum Max thing from the SEC,
but she probably made 20 million.
I mean, I don't know about that.
Or are we
much.
aware of how much she made? Is that public knowledge?
I don't know. It could be. I don't know because she probably was paid for the promotion and she probably got a bunch of Ethereum Max. Mm-hmm. So I guess it just depends on where she sold. But the point is that, I mean, 1.2 million has got to be nuts. Kanye's sending her 1.2 million a month. So That's what his
Nah. It's in every 6 months. It's 200,000 a month.
Oh yeah. Sorry.
Yeah,
Well,
still
I was about to say, God,
If it was 1.2 million a month, that man,
Yeah.
I don't know. He should have kept that deal with Adidas. That's what I'm saying. But
yeah, well,
anyway.
1.2 or 1.2 million over 6 months. Yeah, 6 months. But still, it's like, I mean,
Quick
1.2
maths.
million for the Kardashians or the Wests is nothing. So
I do appreciate, and again, this is a podcast that does not condone the scammery, but I do
Man,
believe that
I don't
people
know
should
about
be
that.
husling.
if you can get away
Yeah.
with it,
So that's the thing. Yeah,
maybe do some scam shit. I don't know.
I applaud the creativity with which like the scammers are coming at you these days. Like, so, having just bought a house, now every warranty company is calling you on some bullshit. Like, oh yeah, we got your information. Oh, you sent us an email and I ain't sent you no fucking email. Why are you calling me to try to get my credit card information to set up Comcast when I've already done all that shit myself? There are so many different ways now. And a lot of it is social media, which again, I do have to somewhat applaud the creativity of like, okay, you created this persona that got people to buy into it. Particularly, for example, let's say Liver King, that wasn't necessarily like inflammatory and violent the way that like Alex Jones or some shit would be. He figured out, okay, I can sell products to people. Who the fuck cares if, I'm making a TV show? Though obviously he wasn't. He was, I don't know, because I didn't watch him or pay, that much attention to what he was actually doing. But like across the board, you have to, kind of identify a hole in the system. And I do applaud that. Our systems, all of them are flawed. Any institution that we're working within is flawed. Whether you're going to school and you're figuring out how to get fucking cash dollars for your cafeteria to make sure you continue to eat, or, student loans, or you name it. We need to figure out by any means necessary to survive and win. It does get detrimental when people are having too much greed and kind of just overindulging in different things. But all of this to me is a sign towards society of like desperation. Like I mentioned earlier, there have been quick get rich quick schemes around all the time. I'm sure it feels like they are more prevalent in this day and age. And, because we have access to all these documentaries and news media coverage, you're able to like see exactly what the fuck went down it used to be, oh man, yeah, the IRS came and got Wesley Snipes and that's all we really know. Okay, he wasn't paying his taxes. Okay, well, on to the next. There wasn't a fucking 10-part Netflix documentary about how he went to jail and all kinds of shit. Now you get every breakdown. You get the creative breakdown, like with Anna Delvey, where it's like, oh, this wasn't even the real lady. Like they took some creative license in this, and we, again, as consumers, eat that shit up. So is that Netflix and HBO Max or whoever's doing the documentary? Are they scamming us by, all they had was based on real events or some shit like that? Like where is the line of, who needs to be telling the truth here? But again, this goes back to our previous podcast where our third co-host was discussing where you're taking full advantage of those other people, particularly putting them in, dire financial positions. That's where, I think it goes too far. But again, I mean, kudos to the creativity. If you ain't scamming, you ain't trying.
I can agree with that. Okechi, anything you wanted to add? Anything on your mind?
I truly do believe the ability to transmit messages, and I'll also add the ability to buy credibility. Like I can pay Tom Brady to endorse my company with money I've stolen. And now an everyday person, and I'm not blaming Tom Brady in this instance. It's the same thing as taking Coca-Cola money to do a Gatorade commercial, right? But I think specifically, I guess we'll get into this later, but with FTX, they actually tapped into a bunch of financial YouTubers with millions of followers and were paying them money to promote their platform. So it became a tremendous growth engine, and all they were doing was stealing customers' money. So
it's it's kind of a clusterfuck, this like the scam shit, because there's a lot of I guess reputable parties, whether it's Tom Brady or fucking Forbes.com, Fortune.com as well, had SBF plastered on the front of their magazine covers, and the Sequoia Capital investing in FTX But then there's also a lot of people who just kind of come up out of nowhere. And one thing that is interesting to me is that you can actually do well with the tools that the scammers use, whether it's YouTube or Instagram. Big shout to CoffeeZilla on YouTube, who's been covering the crypto scams for a while. Had a 3-part series on Logan Paul's crypto zoo nonsense. But let's table that for now. Let's talk crypto fucking currency. Okechi, this is what I've been wanting to talk to you about the most.
Yeah.
Just tell me what you just be straight up, bro. Just be straight up. Don't give
real.
us
It's real talk beyond the headlines.
Don't give us the Instagram filter version. Don't give us the corporate version. Where do you stand on crypto?
All right. So I think most people don't. Crypto is not backed by anything. Meaning, if I say, hey, the Okechi token is worth $5. If someone will buy it for $5, then sure, it's worth $5. But is it worth $5? Like, Okechi token, it's nothing, right? It's just, I made it up right now. And I'm saying one of these tokens, I have a million of them, is $5. The coin market cap is $5 million. Literally, someone could do that. That's actually what a lot of people have done. However, if we go to the actual, let's say, essence of cryptocurrency, it's basically supposed to be a digital currency backed in some way by the technology of cryptography. Then there are tokens which literally they're centralized much of the time, which means one person issues it. I issue Okechi token. I sell it to you, and then I say it's worth whatever. While cryptocurrency, at least like the Bitcoin, is decentralized. So there's not like one person issuing it. I know someone at LinkedIn when I used to work there who liquidated his entire 401k and put all of his money in Bitcoin. It's an individual I used to work with.
When did he invest?
I think he did this around 2019, 2020.
Oh, so he got in at a good time.
Yeah. Well, however, I don't know on what platform he placed his money on. So if it's on an FTX, a Celsius, or a Voyager Digital, which are all now defunct and bankrupt, he may not see his money. Because at the end of the day, all those platforms were doing was showing you a number on a screen while they were playing around with your money without telling you.
He might get 10 cents on the dollar after 10 years of litigation.
He might. Yeah, exactly. So his retirement date just got pushed back significantly. But I do think, if I look at Bitcoin specifically, the one very useful thing I can say about it is if you look at foreign currencies, there's hundreds of foreign currencies and they all trade against one another. If a Bitcoin exists and all of these currencies are trading against Bitcoin, you know the price of every currency in comparison to every currency based on Bitcoin, for example, as a constant. So I do see usefulness in cryptocurrency when it comes to pricing foreign currencies against one another. But aside from that, it hasn't proven to be extremely useful as a payment. So like walking into Starbucks and paying with crypto, it still isn't as convenient for a consumer as just paying with your credit card, Visa, MasterCard, Amex. I don't think, as far as sending large amounts of money to friends, the gas fees that are applied to them are pretty high. So I have some cryptocurrency. I don't have too much. It's a very, very small percentage of money that I have, but it also is an extremely ripe area for people to come up, make their own tokens, coins, etc. Say, oh, it's one of the other cryptocurrencies, and then make off like bandits, right?
So it being the standard across different national currencies, was that one of the goals? You mentioned that as a potential positive. I wasn't aware of that.
I don't think it's a goal at all. I think it's a side effect of the fact that people all across the world may be buying and selling Bitcoin at every time. So it's like a 24/7 market that allows you to see, okay, if everyone's purchasing one Bitcoin, I know with Nigerian Naira and US dollars, for example, I know how much you purchase Bitcoin for. So I know how much you guys should exchange a Naira for a dollar for. So
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. But what also
it's
was
more
that
of a
not
side
already
effect.
a thing though? Was that not already like a position? And I guess I understand that
Go ahead.
national currencies can also be volatile, particularly in recent years with, well, I don't know if the US dollar was changing, but the euro recently was changing. Was China not also manipulating their currency? Does Bitcoin essentially kind of mitigate that currency manipulation that may potentially happen?
Yeah. It could. I think a good example of this would be like the Argentinian government manipulates their currency all the time. And then there's the regular official rate and then the black market rate. I'm fairly certain if you were to purchase Bitcoin, for example, with Argentinian pesos, I think it's Argentinian pesos, it would be like the real market, like the black market rate, not the government set rate, right? So that would be an example.
Fascinating.
Okay, well, you're talking some high finance shit that I don't understand.
Sorry, I didn't mean to.
No, you're
my
good.
bad.
No, it's all good.
Okay,
That's what we
okay.
want you on the podcast for. But I guess this is one of the things that I'm like trying to decode is like I think that, well, I'm just gonna say this straight up. I think the crypto economy is straight bullshit. It's all scam shit. Now, I have not decided personally whether crypto is useless or Bitcoin. There could be some advantage, and the things that you're saying are some very sort of like foundational topics or subjects in finance. So I'm not necessarily trying to understand it. I do want to understand the utility of it, like actually how useful is it? Let me ask you something. Do you think that there's
Go ahead.
Is there any utility for crypto as a ledger tool, even for central banks or some of these large banks? You know, because I mean, keeping track of financial transactions is I would presume it's complicated, but obviously we have no issue with it. Here, I guess I'll give a little bit of an example. In order for people to take money out of your account, it can happen like that. But for people to put money into your account, whether you're transferring between yourself or just putting a check in, it takes days. Why? And I'm guessing there's the accounting aspect of it, and also because the bank companies, they completely exploit the consumers. But like for something like that ability to have this transparent transaction or ledger of transactions that perhaps all banks can use, and maybe central banks as well, and maybe even the consumer, like we'll have some transparency around the transactions and the accounting of them. Is cryptocurrency useful for that?
Yeah, I'd say to an extent it's useful because these ledgers are public, and then also like, and I don't know the exact specifics, but basically if I have a cryptocurrency wallet and you have one and I transfer money to you, like Herschel could see it. Anyone who wanted to see it could see it. Now, the actual owner of the wallet, like you can't look up, oh, this is Okechi's wallet, etc. But you can see that two people transacted, and I believe you can see the amount. So I do think there's no way to like hide a transaction using a cryptocurrency. You can't be like, hey, this never happened. You never transferred to me money. It's like, no, we have the record of it. So yes, I do think in terms of transparency, that could be a bit of a benefit.
Now, so as we were discussing scam culture earlier, wouldn't I'm just imagining banking lobbyists pushing back against that because they, like Tunde said, are making their bank off of consumers making transactions, doing different things, obviously interest on from loans and things like that. But they wouldn't want it to be that easy to move money around. I keep thinking about like the Rick and Morty sketch where like they destroyed the currency of whatever.
Yeah.
I forget what episode it was, but one of the dudes is like, yeah, I could do that for you for money. And then, the whole capitalist system restarts. And, that's what I foresee. Like it could be like the downfall of society. And then we find some other currency to build ourselves back up. And I don't know if cryptocurrency, or not necessarily cryptocurrency as a whole, but like that could be the vehicle, the medium for whatever the next step in technology and society is.
Yeah, potentially. Yeah, definitely. I do think as far as like what people look for in terms of like, I want my money to be safe. So whether you trust the US government or Bitcoin or whatever it might be, it's a battle for the public perception of safety of their funds. And I do think after these multiple cryptocurrency exchanges falling over, there's probably even less. There was a lot of people were already sketched out, but when I believe FTX at the time of its failure was the second largest in the world after Binance, it's not a good look. And I'm sure bankers are rejoicing. They're like, just bring it over to Chase. Bring that paper over to Chase.
Yeah.
Let's go.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure they're also trying to capitalize on crypto, the bankers as well. Although there may be nothing to capitalize on, but if there's no competition from the DeFi community, then they can do whatever the fuck they want with it.
What's DeFi real quick?
Decentralized finance.
Decentralized finance.
Oh, okay. That's for the listeners.
Yeah, no, that's this. I do think that I do think most banks are staying away from crypto right now. Like they're probably, especially now, they might have been thinking about jumping in, but they're waiting. The only financial institution of repute that I've seen do anything in the crypto space is Fidelity. Just opened up crypto trading, or they're about to. They have a wait list. I was shown a Instagram ad, but the comments are like, are y'all not watching the news? Like, I'm not about to put money in any type of crypto exchange. Like, no, and no, So I highly doubt Chase, Bank of America, Goldman Sachs are going to touch it with a 10-foot pole for the next couple of years. So.
Yeah, but great points. Do you feel like it could make a resurgence after 5-10 years? After, the block basically cools down? I mean, I'm thinking of, for example, Wells Fargo after they got in a bunch of hot water. People are still banking with that institution, even though we all recognize that they're shady.
Yeah, I actually do think it could happen. There have to be a lot of, let's say, macroeconomic things that support it, though. Meaning, like, we had low interest rates for forever, which means you couldn't, like, put money in a certificate of deposit and, like, make any type of percentage because interest rates were so low. However, I'd say the big thing is all of these companies that have failed won't exist. So new companies will come in and take their place. Or the companies that make it through this will have the credibility, the Coinbases of the world, if they make it, the crypto.coms of the world. They'll be able to say, we were very good stewards of your money in the hardest times that we've seen in the history of cryptocurrencies. We made good decisions. We've already weathered this storm, so we'll weather future storms as well. But that's up to, I still think the appetite's going to be pretty low for maybe longer than that.
Yeah. Thanks for that. And speaking of storms, I do feel like it was just a perfect storm of society with a significant health crisis, global health, a literal pandemic occurring.
Yeah.
Obviously, there have been, just kind of uprisings internationally as well, unrelated to the pandemic, but just political unrest, not only in the Western world, but I mean, not only outside the Western world, but like across the Western world too. There's just shit that's going on. People are just less trusting of our current institutions that maybe encouraged folks to, again, in desperation, go out on a limb on crypto shit. And then again, the house of cards folded. So it's really fascinating to me that we were able to live through, like Tunde said, the rise and fall of crypto, but also interesting to hear that it might not be dead yet.
Yeah, I don't think it's totally fallen just yet. Herschel, actually, that's an interesting transition you made, sort of referencing how the pandemic kind of, fueled some of the scam shit that we see. So we'll talk about that in a second. But I do just want to clarify that I do think crypto is a huge component of the scam economy, the golden age of scam. So just wanted to touch on that for a second and hear what Okechi has to say about it. Like, I know about crypto from a very external viewpoint. Like, I really don't know too much about finance, like the sort of corporate professional finance. But now I'm like super into it. Like, I learned what a margin call was the other day. Like,
yeah. Okay. Oh, dang.
What is a
man?
margin
You advanced now.
It's all the crypto shit.
Tunde, would you like to go at it, or do you want me to?
Let me go ahead and test my chops. But a margin call. So
go ahead. Let's go.
So
let's go.
If you're dealing with a financial institution, you can get capital. They can front you capital, or you can borrow capital to trade or to just have cash. And then you in order to get that capital, you'll have to back it up with some assets. So Elon Musk is the perfect example right now. He's been getting a shit ton of loans to buy Twitter and other things, and he's backing it up with, or collateralizing it with, Tesla stock. But in order for the loan to be viable, you have to have a certain amount of assets available. So because these assets are, I guess, illiquid, or I guess they're not cash, basically. And even with Tesla stock, even though he could sell it, he can't sell that much of it. He can only collateralize 25% of it. And he's saying that he's not going to sell it. So it's really not that liquid, the Tesla stock. So anyway, the margin call is when you have a certain amount, or you go below a certain amount of value of your assets that back your loan. The bank will ask you to insert more assets, either cash or give them more stocks. So the margin call is when they call upon you to fill the margin of the distance between your loan and your assets.
Hey, well done, Tunde. I thank you for that.
Was that accurate,
made a lot of
Okechi?
sense to me.
That was well done.
Thank you.
That was very well done. I'll add one small thing. So to have a margin call, you have to have taken out a loan to buy assets. So if I have $10,000 and I buy $10,000 worth of stock and lose it all, perfectly fine. No margin call. You just lost $10,000 of your money. Now, if I have $10,000 and I borrow another $10,000, as soon as the losses on my position exceed the $10,000 loan, they're like, hey, you need to front more money because you have 20,000. We gave you 10. Now you're below the initial amount you put in. So maybe there's only 8,000 in the account. So you went from 20 to 8. We need our money. You know what I'm saying? Like, we need our money. So that's what that is.
Okay,
Right.
Fascinating.
So yeah, I've like this whole crypto thing has been just completely fascinating to me. And I've never owned crypto. I've never even had any inkling within myself to invest, even when it was going crazy. And I feel totally vindicated now because it's imploding. But there's also just the aspect of like again, going back to the deception thing and confidence. People, like, there's a lot of misuse of confidence and deception in the crypto economy. But we'll table crypto for now. Let's talk about why has the scam economy exploded. I have a couple suggestions. Herschel, you already said one. I mean, the pandemic threw everyone into a state of anxiety, tension. A lot of people lost their jobs. A lot of people lost their businesses. And, I'm sure there's a psychology that I could probably research and explain in better detail, but when people are in difficult circumstances, they will be more attracted to get rich quick schemes.
We talked about this on one of our podcasts during the pandemic of multi-level marketing campaigns just like exploding, everybody wanting to start something up where, oh yeah, well, and again, because people were depressed and anxious about money sitting at home. Oh, you mean I could just hit up 5 of my friends and have them give me this money after I give you $100 and then, you know, just move it forward. And then now I've come up $400 or $500 and God, it's actually making me upset even thinking about it because I had some family members that bought into some things that I knew were going to collapse. It was
what,
like
crypto?
A true pyramid schemes where I just knew that, you know, okay, this is not going to last forever. This is going to flame out in the most incredible way it possibly could, and it literally did that. But yeah, I think you're right, Tunde, that, you know, people were just and are. I don't think it's over. You know, folks are hungry. I think, you know, it ends up doing other things like affecting crime rates in society. Everyone's pockets get a little bit tighter. And even those who have it choose not to spend as much money, which again hurts the economy, which hurts the lowest common denominator of us. And, you know, the cycle just continues. The government tries to do what it can to quote unquote buy out or subsidize different people's pains, whether it's PPP loans or, you know, stopping the student loan payments, which again, salute to that. Thank God. But I mean, it's you know, I've heard different sides of, you know, people rooting for and against the government doing this as, you know, we're essentially mortgaging our futures. Like these problems are the same. We're just kind of kicking the can down the road without actually attempting to solve any of the problems that we actually have. And I'm not even sure if we can accurately identify what the issues are at this point when, you know, again, living in a capitalist society, we like nice things. It's not necessarily just, okay, we have basic needs and necessities. It's beyond that. I also want a nice big old house and I want to eat quote unquote organic foods and, you know, not necessarily better shit than my neighbor, but better shit than the worst type shit. So I'm not sure how to actually solve that competition, that natural state of competition that I think human beings have. It may just be, you know, a societal factor of, you know, as we're talking about rise and fall of crypto. I don't want to be Debbie Downer. I think I've done this before of talking about society collapsing, but hey, man, this shit's finite. So, you know, we should have our fun when we can, insulate ourselves where we can, but I'm not sure.
Fair enough. Well, just a few things that I just want to share in terms of my thought as to why the scam economy has just blown up. Honestly, Herschel, what you just said is like this idea of comparisons, you know, and social media is just like so bad with that. Like, I mean, you scroll for 5 seconds and you just feel bad about yourself or good about yourself in a way that's detached from reality. But as we often do on this podcast and just what people do in the world in general, I got to blame it on Mark Zuckerberg and Facebook. And I have to extend the blame to Sheryl Sandberg because they have come up with our social media economy the way it is now, that it's hyper dependent on advertising and views and these sort of very
sensationalism.
Absolutely. I mean, that's what you were just talking about, Herschel. Like, you know, people are posting, and I don't even think it's always intentional, but people are posting very curated versions of their life. Even if it's just basic shit, they're not posting the bad. So we are in this economy, this social media economy, where we're constantly evaluating ourselves against one another, and we're constantly evaluating these very superficial forms of interaction, aka likes, retweets, and you know, I don't want to shit completely on Sandberg. I will on Zuck. But I mean,
hey, don't take it easy on her. All
right, well,
give her that work too.
You know, yeah, there's been quite a bit written about her and her all, what is it called, all in, or I forget. Anyway, her feminism movement. I forget
nonsense.
the name of it. Yeah, but her, like, you know, there's a book that I read not too long ago. I forgot what it's called. It was from these New York Times writers about Facebook. Give me a second.
So yeah, while you look that up, I have an interesting thought about that. So we're obviously attaching this to these two people, Zuckerberg and Sandberg, the Bergs. I was thinking about this earlier in the day of just completely unrelated, but like, okay, so we live in a society, right? You know, you drive your car, it's got wheels on it, right? Let's say there was one dude, you know, a billion years ago that quote unquote invented the wheel. He realized, oh, there's less friction for me to get some shit down this street or down this path or whatever if I roll it rather than sliding it or whatever. Now, imagine that dude, he created this thing, it was working for him fine, and then he got struck by lightning or he got bit by a snake or he died and he couldn't pass on that idea. Would, you know, one, how long would it take before somebody else came up with the idea? And, you know, we still, because it's a factor of physics and society that, you know, we would find some other convenient way to move about and do this or that. So in relating this to social media, if it wasn't Zuckerberg, would somebody else have come up with something that was similarly destructive to our psyches? You know what I mean?
Possibly, but there was social media before Facebook, and it didn't.
It was destructive too. We just hadn't got there. It started to get monetized and scaled to a level where it truly became there. But MySpace, I definitely remember feeling wary, like, yeah, I'm not really interested in putting my life on the internet like that. And I mean, it was cool. It always starts out innocent, right? Mm-hmm. The road to hell is paved with good intentions. Even Facebook, you know, I mean, I guess he was a little bit spiteful about whatever from my thoughts on the social media or social network movie, but like he wasn't intent on tearing down society with this fucking thing.
Yeah, well, so I found the book is called An Ugly Truth by Shara Frankel and Cecilia Kang. But in the book, they argue about how Sheryl Sandberg was at the forefront of really the monetization component of Facebook. And she actually was working at Google prior to Facebook. And she brought, I mean, Google is the king of advertising, but that model of getting views and interactions and social media interactions and trying to get as many as possible in order to, you know, get advertising dollars is pretty toxic. And it's, you know, people are capitalizing on that model and doing scam shit. So I'll just go ahead and go down the list real quick. Okechi, definitely want to hear what you think, just in terms of the scam economy and just the economy in general. You know, if there's anything that, you know, we should be aware of in terms of deception and being conned. But people aren't reading books anymore. I know y'all are reading books.
Yeah.
But people probably, you know, again, I don't want to rest.
They're watching YouTube videos.
I do a lot of that as well. But, you know, I don't want to place all the blame on any particular group of people. Gen Z don't read books anymore. You know, and I mean, SBF said this. He said this.
Man, we're washed, huh?
No, we are readers. We're book readers.
Roasting that.
We're wise.
Generation.
From washed to wise is what we are. But SBF, he said in an interview, or I think it was an interview, again, I'll link to this in the show notes, that he said he would never read a book. These are words that came out of his mouth. And he's not even...
This is a person that they gave $2 billion in funding to.
Yes.
Said he'd never read a book. Because, oh, he's a genius because he plays video games while he's giving a presentation for a $210 million fundraising action, which he got from one of the most supposedly sophisticated investment firms in the world. I don't have nothing else to say. Sorry.
That firm.
I luckily never put money in FTX, but I would be at his house right now if I did. You know what I'm saying? Like, we gonna need to talk.
Yeah.
And I might have to put hands on you.
That 401k story you said, that's not even that uncommon. People putting their entire portfolio into crypto is not that, like, anyway. Another thing I mentioned earlier, there are legitimate ways to make money on the internet that are not scam shit. Like I mentioned, CoffeeZilla, he's at 2.2 million subscribers now. I'm sure he's getting a lot of YouTube ad dollars, and he's doing legit journalism, good journalism.
Yep.
You know, I mean, people who do art on Instagram, you know, so you know, I guess you don't want to like impugn the tool, but the tool has made it easier for different types of people to do different types of things, including scam shit, fake news, misinformation. That's a big one. And my personal favorite, there are studies, there is research. Jean Twenge, she's a psychologist at UCSD, San Diego. I think she actually wrote her dissertation on an increase in narcissism, a personality trait. She wrote a book about it. There are probably YouTube videos, lectures that she's done, along with her co-author of this book, The Narcissism Epidemic. I think his name is Keith Campbell. But, you know, I guess you could say the rise in narcissism could be because of social media. People are having that literal reflection of themselves, you know, and going back to the mythology of Narcissus, he fell in love with his reflection of himself. We can actually have that reflection, and we can quantify it with likes and shit. So
Yeah.
narcissistic traits are correlated with sort of antisocial behaviors, scam shit, basically. So that's my thought.
Yeah, I was actually going to when you look at, like, I think what Instagram does really well, and maybe TikTok now, is sell a dream, which then a bad actor can capitalize on. Like the Tinder swindler, right? Why do you, as a 30-something-year-old young lady who has never been flown out to other countries on a private jet, XYZ, suddenly think that this individual you're the love of his life? You've never met him. It's because you've seen an image of, I've seen people in Ferraris, I've seen people on private jets. Why can't I be there? And it's like, because your bank account ain't set up like that. That's why you can't be there. I'm not there either. I'm not doing it either. But I do think when you look at it, whether it's people selling scam courses, NFTs, etc., I am trying to sell the dream of you can be an unbelievably wealthy person if you pay me $50 a month. Or if you buy my NFT, it's going to the moon, I could sell it. Or I'm in love with you, come on my private jet, which I need a small $100,000 loan that I'm never going to pay back. Because I'm caught up in some issues, some legal issues. So just break the bread off, but we good. Bye. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's what Instagram has done. Fortunately, you know, I grew up Nigerian. Your parents regularly tell you, like, hey, if you see something you want and you can't buy it, close your eyes. You know what I'm saying? Close your eyes till you can buy it. You know what I'm saying? So, like, I always had a realistic perspective on some of these things, but I think if someone's like, if you trust in me, and I'm this person on the internet who you keep seeing messages from, then you'll become like me, or you'll become like the people you see on the internet. And they're tapping into that psychological need for sure. That's what I think.
Okay, so you're not getting flued out?
I have not been flued out. I have not.
Flies himself out.
Yeah. I do fly coach, but I still do fly myself out. You know what I'm saying? I'm in coach, but it's all good.
So you mentioned something really interesting there that I wanted to touch on a bit more in regards to social media. I feel like it is like a greater perceived level of intimacy than what we've had from media in the past, where, you know, you feel more connected watching somebody's Instagram stories and things like that all the time, seeing their intimate pictures with their family and stuff, whether they're celebrities in some other regard and then they're also doing Instagram or not. It used to obviously still kind of happen with TV and radio, but those were still mediums where there was some distance. But celebrities will tell you in, you know, interviews and stories and stuff, like radio show hosts will be like, oh yeah, people come up to me and bring up like moments that I had totally forgotten, but I mentioned and they truly connected with on the radio because, you know, you're in their head and you know, they let's say someone listens to Rush Limbaugh or some shit every day over and over and over. They think they have a personal relationship with that dude. People who are, you know, watching your Instagram and liking all the pictures and waiting for the next post and the next story to come out and shit like that. You think you you know that person for real when, just like Tunde said earlier, you're seeing, a curated lifestyle. You're seeing the TV show, but it's an extension of what reality TV was, where, that was still manufactured for a purpose, for sales again, but on a more personal level. It sucks that it has been manipulated to be really toxic, but again, or toxic in some ways. But again, I salute the creativity, like you mentioned, Tunde, of people figuring out different ways to get money. And I also really like what you said regarding your parents, of just like, yo, you got to teach young people to turn it off. Like, yo, if you can't afford this, or if it's not for you, it's not for you. You need to, not attempt to scam your way into it, because you will get caught. It doesn't work like that. And I mean, I don't know how to teach that lesson in mass, aside from, maybe in school, there need to be classes about like, all right, this is what social media is. This is how you stay safe on it. This is how you don't get kidnapped. This is how you don't get scammed out of all your money. Similar to how they have like economics classes, where I wish they had taught me how to do taxes then, but they teach you most of the other shit about the general shit about the economy. They don't teach you margin calls. I wish I had learned that, but I guess it wouldn't have mattered to me then. I had no money, but I think these are important lessons that we probably should start integrating into curriculums or curricula. But I don't know how to do that. We already have a huge fight on our hands in terms of how people are agreeing to add stuff or remove stuff from curriculums. Shout out critical race theory, which clearly has blown away after the election and whatnot is gone. Nobody gives a fuck about it because they couldn't explain what it meant anyway to white people. So it is what it is. But yeah, those are my thoughts. I think it's interesting. But yeah.
Yo, I love how Nigerian advice is always so literal. You see something? You can't have it. Close your eyes. Problem solved.
Yeah, in my head I was like, well, are you just blind till forever? But that sounds like a little parable there. That's funny.
Yeah, Nigerian parables are often literally literal as fuck. And it often makes a lot of sense. I'll say one more thing. I guess we're probably getting close to the end of this podcast. But this is another factor that I actually want to learn a little bit more about. Maybe we'll even have a podcast about it. But like, people are living in their own realities. Before, you could open up the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, or even turn on the TV, even though the news shows are corrupt in their own way. But everyone had a general understanding of what was important in the world and what was a kind of fuzzy extrapolation of the truth. Now people can tap into whatever the fuck they want. Any community, any social media, nothing, this, that, and I guess on some level it's a good thing because people can connect with communities or topics in a way that's unprecedented throughout history. Like, you can completely immerse yourself in a particular thing or topic. Unfortunately, for some people, that's QAnon. But we don't have really a shared reality, or it's being degraded. I'm pretty sure this is stuff that's been talked about in some good detail. Jonathan Haidt, social psychologist at NYU, wrote an article in The Atlantic about why, I think it's entitled "Why the Past," or something about why recent times have been exceptionally stupid, or something like that. But Haidt is basically talking about how, we don't have a shared reality. Social media has sort of degraded our ability to understand information in a shared way. A quote, I've mentioned this on the podcast, I'll say it again. Michael Eric Dyson was on The Breakfast Club, I want to say before the pandemic, and he says something that just sticks with me, and I just think it's so perfect. The quote is, "Digital culture is not equipped to deal with analog realities." And that's something that we are going to have to figure out, because we still live in the real world. We still live in the real world. When you swipe right on Tinder, it's virtual until you meet up in real life. And then you can make your evaluation as to how much you like this person. Same with social media. Hush puppy, Lambos, bags, cash, champagne, jail. That's real. That's real. So yeah. So basically, we are having to sort of we need to start to bring what we have come to accept in digital worlds, in virtual worlds, and we have to align it with reality. And if it's not alignable, then we have to put the digital worlds back in their place as a secondary sort of lifestyle, because it's not reality. Anyway, that's all I got to say for now.
No, that was beautifully said.
Appreciate it. So Herschel just fucking bounced from the. You said he lost signal, but it's all good.
That's unfortunate.
We'll go ahead and wrap it up. Okechi, any last words?
Okay. Yeah, last words. Thank you so much for having me. This was a mad, interesting, fun conversation, and I think it will be interesting seeing how we deal with this age of scam over the next, 5, 10, 15 years. Mm-hmm. We definitely covered a lot of topics: cryptocurrencies, social media, the ability to get on the internet or TV, etc., and lie for a result. And thanks again for having me.
Most definitely. This is #RTBTH. One more comment. Actually, I just thought of it, Okechi, after what you said about how we're going to deal with this scam shit over the next couple years. But it seems to me people are really getting exposed like a motherfucker.
Yep.
SBF is a great example. Like, not only is he getting exposed, his whole life is completely crashed and burned and imploded. Liver King, he seems like he might be able to still, have a little of a presence and potentially can have an income based on his persona and his brand. But people are getting exposed, and perhaps maybe, the more exposure, the less people will be inclined to do scam shit. Anyway, this is #RTBTH. Okechi, thank you. Herschel, what the fuck? Anyway, we out. Peace.